was pretty vocal about wanting to be a police officer. The first thing that got me wanting to be in policing was I ended up having to call the police, and they stayed and talked to my sister and I for 2 hours almost. And just, I was super influenced. When they left, I asked, can y'all hit the sirens for me? And stuff like that. And the defining moment for me, honestly, as a kid was they didn't forget to hit the siren at the end. And when those lights came on and that siren hit, that's what I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a cop. Growing up in Dallas, been a Dallas police officer, the way to reduce violent crime is through proactive policing and community policing on a day-to-day basis. Yes, the big events, the community events are great. We're going to continue doing them, but it's the day-to-day interactions. Taking the extra 5-10 minutes to play basketball, to stop and talk to somebody, to ask somebody questions. So now that I'm an adult and got a little bit of money, I make sure to have Christmas at my house every year and make sure my family's together. The only thing I ever want for Christmas in my adult life is just to have my immediate family together, and I make sure that happens every
year. You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community, and now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow. We can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
Welcome back, ATO friends. I'm Joe King, and today I'm with Kent Wolverton. This podcast has referenced God's country, also known as the best division in the city of Dallas. We've also talked about the poverty, the crime, the gangs, the absolute despair for some of the people that live in that area, especially South Dallas. Some of the neighborhoods in South Dallas include Bonton, Dixon Circle, Dolphin Heights, Fraser Court, Mill City, Turner Courts, and the Park Road District. And within these neighborhoods have crimes and gang aplenty. During the great Mike Reiner episode, we discussed a book that talked about the history of this area. During the 1950s, there were house and church bombings, extreme racism and segregation. Even during the 1950s, the great Ray Charles lived at 2642 Eugene. There are generations of poverty, generations of crime. Violence becomes the normal for young kids watching their friends and family either be victims or suspects in this violence. Seeing narcotics or SWAT demolish houses that terrorize neighborhoods also becomes daily and weekly theater for the residents. There's a lot of mistrust in the police within these communities. It's a hard cycle to break, and even harder for some to get out of that cycle. Not all people are given the opportunities that others may enjoy. Today's guest grew up in the 415 portion of Dallas. He went to the great James Madison High School. From 2009 to 2015, he started his dream of getting to law enforcement as a Dallas Police Explorer at Central Post 7980. He trained at South Central, worked gang unit enforcement, South Central CRT. His name is Brandon Dye. Brandon, thank you for joining us. I'm glad I finally got you in here. We've been talking about it for weeks.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Before we get into his episode, I want to introduce a special guest co-host. It's really important for him to be here. Officer Holmes, tell the listener a little bit about yourself.
Senior Corporal Jacob Holmes, about year 8. Brandon Dye and I have been partners from the beginning, we were classmates. I was a little bit older than him when he
12
started.
years.
Yeah,
12.
Yeah, so I was.
That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I was 31 when I started the academy, so I was 10 years teaching and coaching prior to starting the police academy. And when Di started, he was 19. So I had just been teaching and coaching students that age.
Is that really even legal? I thought you had to be 21 in the academy.
Wow.
Yes, it's the
Hey.
highlighted part at the bottom. You can be 18 in the state of Texas as long as you have 60 college credits.
Yep. So he had to get hit when he hit the street. His T-Cole license was the thing that allowed him to buy bullets because he wasn't old enough. Yeah.
His T-Cole license had him looking to the side.
Can't
like-
drink. Yeah, can't.
Like
You know,
young
barely
kid's
can
driver's
smoke
license.
if you want to smoke.
Yeah.
When I was in the academy, actually, the very first day we had on our DPD uniforms, right after you take T-Cole, the first day, right before they dismissed, our class coordinator came in, Tom Kelly, and he's like, "Hey, Di, I need to talk to you." And he's like, "I don't know what's going on, but you're going to have to come in your Dickies tomorrow." And I'm like, "What?" I've been working so hard for like the past 6 months, and coming. So I broke down crying in the academy. And
You know, I mean, you're thinking about like, you work your tail off, and that's like the big deal when like you're not wearing those, horrible, blue Dickies that you get the uniform. Yeah. So that was the day we got our uniform.
And you look like you're like a, no offense to the custodians, but but that you basically look like you're about to jump on the back of a a garbage truck.
Yep.
When I went through, we didn't have those, so we had to wear, and I was dirt poor. We had to wear cheap, like whatever dress clothes.
Yeah.
So I had to alternate ties. I'd wear the same shit every day because I was too poor to buy, JCPenney, slacks and St. John Bay dress shirts. So I just kind of alternated the tie and hope nobody would notice.
Joe also had to walk uphill both ways, barefoot in the snow.
It was 5 miles. I did drive all the
old.
way. I did drive all the way from Cache, Texas, which is way out in between Greenville and Terrell. I drove. That's where I lived during the academy.
That's
So
country folk.
it was an hour and a half drive every one way. So yeah.
So finish. What happened?
so the next day, this was at the end of the day. So I'll go home. It took me at least I was sitting in the car just crying. Everybody like, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." And the next day I came in Dickies, and my entire class was in DPD uniform, and I was a squad leader. And the first question I heard was like, "Who's gonna replace him?" And then later that day, probably after lunch, I'm pretty sure it was after lunch, we're in the computer lab. He comes and get me. He was like, "You know what? They made a mistake. Because you have 60 college credits, they waived it, and they didn't send it down to Austin for that waiver." So I was back in uniform the next day.
And it's on like the recruiting thing. If you can be 19, you have to have 60 credits instead of 21 and 45 credits or whatever it is. So there's an exception to it with DPD, but they just forgot about it. I think because it's so rare, it doesn't really happen.
It's a big deal to get in uniform. No, it's a prideful thing.
Absolutely.
You work your ass off up to that point, and you see all your class. I can't imagine how that felt. I mean,
especially after taking 15 tests. The
Hey,
DPD
and I
final,
always
the T-Cole
say,
test.
those tests are no joke. I'm telling you.
Yep. Well, the thing was, too, is we were all excited because, when we first started, like I said, I'm 31. I was teaching, and Di says, I'm going to dress the elephant in the room with that, like deep black guy, cool voice. And I'm like, the nerdy white guy, old teacher. And he was like, he's standing up. He goes, "I'm 19 years old." And then as I'm watching through the first week, and it's like one chief after the other, chief or major walking in. They're walking in and shaking him. So it's Chief Brown at the time was the chief. So I was like, "Is this Chief Brown's son?" That's like in my mind, like that's what I'm trying to figure. Like, how does everybody know him? Well, then comes to find out, he was an explorer since he was 13. So everybody knew him, knew everything about him, and so it came to pass that we had a lot of people in the 30s. We had a lot of people that were military in our class, and here we are, a 19-year-old. They were having him get up and teach us stuff. Because he'd done so many ride-outs. I'm like, "Dude, hey, man, can I be your friend? Like, I want to pass. I had a wife and a kid. Like, I got to pay my bills." Like, so I literally.
After he gets us in trouble and we have to run or something.
Well, yeah, I did do that because I wanted to work out,
Randy was my Randy in the class to get everybody in trouble. We have to run I do jumping jacks with Pute. Yeah. So I heard, Holmes, I hear about your amazing basketball skills.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I had the opportunity to I was about 5'6" my freshman year, so I was a huge guy in high school.
I was too, and I stayed that way.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
So I was a point guard, so I kept on growing just a few inches. So in a small town, it's an opportunity to play college basketball. I went to a couple of schools. Went to Texas Wesleyan, played there for a little bit, and then went to finish up at Southwestern Assemblies in Waxahachie, Division I NAI school. Real good basketball program, good school, and that led to just coaching jobs. So I was athletic director of a couple of different private schools. Started coaching. Always wanted to do military and law enforcement, but when I was about 23, I met this really pretty woman and. Basically locked her in, got married, had a good career already, so started having kids. And at that point, I decided, you know what, it's time for us to move forward. But basketball has always been a part of my life until I just blew out my knee recently. So
yeah,
I'm probably done with that. Yeah.
So how did she feel about you wanting to get into going from teaching, which is a, for the most part, controlled, safe environment, to come out and work in Dallas, Texas?
Well, I told her that when we first met, I said, someday I want to go to either military or law enforcement. So we got to the point, and I said, hey, look, it's what's your choice? And she was like, I don't want to have to move around. So if you want to go law enforcement, that's fair. The other thing is people say to me all the time, wow, would you ever leave, coaching? And I'll be straightforward with you. That is a hard job. There's a lot of extra hours.
It ain't just
it's
9 to 5 and you go home and shit.
But the coaching stipend makes it completely worth it, right?
Yeah. See, the thing is that people don't realize is like when you are out late and you come home and all these, waiting for your parents to get here, and you're there for a couple of hours, there is no overtime. Like, it doesn't work like we're here. We all know we have like our perfect scale. We know that scale down that if we're getting overtime, we're getting paid for it. So that is definitely a big difference. But, I do miss it, love coaching, but it also gave me an opportunity to coach my kids. So,
Brandon, I want to get into growing up in South Dallas. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've had several guests on here, myself included. I spent nearly 20 years out there, and I gravitated toward the South Dallas area. That's it was one of the hottest areas and the most crime-ridden and most poverty-ridden area. But we've never had anybody here. I grew up on the West Oak Cliff. I was over there
in Woodtown,
the Sunset area, and Atwell, Griner, and all that. Mm-hmm. But I've never had anybody by the mic and that's actually grown up in that area and become a Dallas police officer. Can you kind of describe what that area was growing up to you?
I'll talk about it geographically first, because a lot of officers call Southeast South Dallas, and depending on who you're talking to, that's the type of South Dallas you're talking about. So specifically, the Southeast Division in South Dallas is split up by the train tracks. So South Dallas would be considered the east side of the train tracks, and East Dallas would be considered, the other side of the train tracks. So specifically, and then if you're talking more to the Hispanic community, the East Dallas would be East Grand area. Mm-hmm. So
by the golf course, right over there.
Right, yeah. Right. If you're talking to generally a black person, East Dallas is just east of the train tracks, and
which is just a South Dallas east. It's truly north of the train tracks, right? The way the way everything works over there. We call it east because of the way the streets run, but looking at a map, it's actually north, and that's the wildest thing that I remember about South Dallas was everything was tilted on a different axis.
Yeah. So more specifically, if you're talking about hoods and stuff like that, I grew up in a 415 area, forever wanted a 5 stars. Mm-hmm. Lego and Metropolitan to be more specific, and beat 311. If I'm talking to Dallas police officers, yes, there's a lot of crime. Growing up, I don't know if it was because, I know it's because of my mom. I wouldn't say I lived a sheltered lifestyle. She just didn't play. I mean, I
can attest to that.
Yeah.
So I call her mama too, and she don't play.
We would hear about crime and stuff, but we were never directly involved. Obviously, I mean, family members were gang members, and most of my family members would claim either Park Row 187, Park Row, or Trey 57 Dixon.
Yeah,
they were OGs and Crips, and we lived in a blood area.
Yeah, that's still blood area.
Yeah. So you can imagine the problems they had growing up. But my mom always wanted to be a police officer too. She did 31 years in security and she retired. But they knew not to bring it to her house.
So can I tell us one quick story about Di's mom? And this is a great story because the kind of person she is. She's just a strong, amazing woman that raised her kids. And I remember, so I'd gotten to know her pretty well because, like I said, Di and I worked together, several years, our whole career. So I was behind Di. I was with another officer. He was by himself the night. He makes a turn, and a drunk driver T-bones him. Just it was a female. She was drunk. She was high, and I see it, right in front of me. So I'm like, put out the radio. Hey, I need an ambulance here right away. We get out, and airbags deployed on him. I'm like, this is like my little brother. So I'm kind of like, oh man, you okay? And he's kind of trying to figure out. So we get the ambulance there. We get him out, and he's fine. It's just the car did its job. It protected him. But I was like, hey man, I'm gonna call your mom. Let her know. So I just call her. I'm like, hello, ma'am. I just want to let you know this is Jacob. Hey, Brandon was in an accident. And she said, what? She's like, what do you mean? I said, no, he's fine. I'm trying to let you know he's totally fine. She goes, don't you lie to me about my baby. I said, yes. I said, yes, ma'am. I would not lie to you. I'm scared of you. Yeah.
To add to that story, she was listening to music. They always do hanging out.
Yeah, she's just hanging out, having fun.
Turn the music down.
Oh yeah, that is true. She just said, turn that music down. But I remember I said, ma'am, I would never lie to you. I'm scared of you. Like, there's not very many people that I'm scared of. My mom, I'm scared of my wife, I'm scared of, and Di's mom. That's about it.
So she was probably most influential in your life growing up, right, and being raised, right?
Most definitely. There was a significant event that occurred, that influenced me. My goal, I said all the time, is to take care of her, make sure she has everything she needs. In the 4th grade, I think it was Christmas Eve, she was married. Her ex-husband I think he was supposed to get off at 10 or 11 o'clock, and they were supposed to meet at the club on Christmas Eve. He didn't show up. Christmas morning, we wake up because we were already at the house sleep, and he didn't show up, and she's Christmas morning running around, where's he at? I'm not going to say his name. He doesn't deserve the respect from me. She's trying to find out where he at while we're trying to open toys. Backing up to Christmas Eve, her car got broken into, or she thought her car got broken into. Some things were missing. I know specifically my mom already. She's always carrying, she's always packing. Her gun was missing and some other things. And so Christmas Day, running around trying to find out where he is. And we're trying to open toys. Come to find out, he just disappeared. Look in the closet. All his clothes are gone. All his personal belongings are gone. And I know that destroyed her. 2 car notes, rent, a bunch of credit card bills. We would be driving, and she would just start crying.
Whenever Di, when we were coming up, we're working together, we getting to know each other really well. He starts telling me that story specific, and I remember, talking to him. And thinking, and that's one of the things how we connected so much because I remember on Christmas Day, my biological father, waking up and him abusing my mom and seeing it, and we just absolutely, it just kind of, and ever since then, it never worked out. So we had that connection, just kind of going through some of that stuff together.
Right. And so one of the common themes that we find on this podcast and talking with exceptional people is that they have something like that happens in their life.
Yep.
And that becomes the driving force for them. It blows my mind. Like I grew up really well. Like my family is fantastic. I didn't suffer any of that stuff. So to watch people go through hard times, especially young like that, and then to come out as amazing people, it's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Because you see tragedy turn into something positive.
Absolutely.
And it takes a really strong person to pull that off. I mean, you look around the world and you see tragedy over and over again, and certain people crumble behind it and certain people thrive.
Absolutely.
Well, you can also pinpoint a defining moment in somebody's life that puts them on a path to be great.
Yep.
Right. And I believe that's what sets you on a path early on.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in that area is one thing, and I don't blame you. No, his name is not worth mentioning on this. I'm glad you were there for your mother, and you're still, it puts you on a path to who you are today and who you're still evolving. You're still a young man.
Oh, yeah. So.
So the thing is about it that he's not going to talk about and brag on himself because that's his personality, but he also has taken care of his family. He has Christmas parties, takes care of his mom. He does things for his whole family and has changed the whole aspect of his family. And yeah, go ahead.
To add to that, so Christmas was going forward was pretty. I got to the point where I didn't expect anything. I knew how tough it was year in, year out for her, and she would always have something, whether it's a gift card to Target or some new shoes or something. She would make sure it was something. So now that I'm an adult and got a little bit of money, I make sure to have Christmas at my house every year.
Good.
Yeah.
And make sure my family's together as a result of, especially I think we would still be doing it even if that didn't happen, but especially as a result of that. The only thing I ever want for Christmas in my adult life is just to have my immediate family together, yeah. And I make sure that happens every year. I would say that moment is what making sure that I took care of my mom, making sure I didn't get in trouble in school. I wanted just to make it so much easier for her. Because I know she was struggling, and she never complained. She went and got her divorce paperwork done by herself. But those moments, just sitting in the car, I think it may be a certain song that triggered something, but she would just start crying, and that tore me up inside. Sitting in the back seat, or sitting in the me and my twin sister would argue over who was sitting in the front or back at the times, and just sitting and watching her cry.
Well, I could say that it sounds like there is one thing that you took from him is how not to be a man.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
So,
that he's
yeah.
what you would grow up not wanting to be like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I remember Di telling me one time that or actually some suspect was yelling at me. He just called me racist or something. I just remember what it was, and Di and I had gotten to know each other so much. He knows my wife, my kids. Like, they call him Brandon. They excited to be around him. And I'm gonna share this. This is kind of personal, but I'm gonna share this. Like, I have my little girls. Like, and I think that they like Di so much. And this is gonna sound kind of bad, but like, they go pick they have black baby dolls.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I'm like, one time someone asked me, they're like, why did they pick that? I was like, they probably really think this really good looking black man is the man they're going to
Yeah.
marry someday. So that's probably why they do that, right? So that's how close we are, like, with our families, with him and my family. And I remember him yelling at that person, telling him, this guy takes care of his wife, his kids. Don't talk to him like that. Show him respect. And the guy was like, "Oh, okay." Oh, dang, like.
Brandon, I want to describe to the listener. I mentioned a little bit in the intro that violence, family members, friends being arrested and taken away in handcuffs was, in some cases, theater out there in the southeast area. And you would see you have crime scene tape up with bodies and blood on the streets and sidewalks and in houses, and you would see complete families with kids 4 and 5 years old out there watching. And a lot of people, I know that there's no way I'd let my daughter, Karma would not be standing there with me at a damn yellow police tape watching something like that. Did you ever see something similar to that out there growing up? Or your mom probably wouldn't let you near that, but did you see? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, sure do. As a matter of fact, probably about 12:30 this morning, my mom called me and was like, "I don't know what's going on, but it's a bunch of police cars running up and down the street." So that goes to the saying, and it's true. It will always be true. The streets talk.
Yeah.
And word spreads very fast, very, very fast. And that hasn't changed. as far as when something happens, when it's like that unique police car door slam. The hood knows it too. So when they hear it, peeping out them windows, to see what's going on. And yeah, it's just part of everybody goes and see what's happening. And I can tell you hours, days before we, the police, know what's going on, the streets already know. And we know whose family's involved. And honestly, that's part of what led me to the gang unit. Because the old saying about the gang unit was they're the bloodhounds. And they know they're the heartbeat. And they know exactly what's going on, when it's going on, because of the connection they have with the community.
Well, you mentioned your mom would not have let this happen, but were you ever influenced by some of your peers and friends who tried to get in that lifestyle?
No.
Or did they ever try to get you to go down that route?
No, because I was pretty vocal about wanting to be a police officer.
Early on, huh?
Wow. Yeah. The first thing that got me wanting to be in policing was my oldest sister was involved in a domestic violence situation. I ended up having to call the police. And I don't remember the male officer's name, but I know Detective Jacqueline McLeod. I believe she's still in the department.
Yeah, I know her.
She showed up, and they stayed and talked to my sister and I for 2 hours almost. And just I was super influenced from the way they pulled up. Got out the car, and when they left, I asked, "Can y'all hit the sirens for me?" And stuff like that. And
so, just highlight on what that means for like community policing. That like how that officer literally impacted, Brandon here. And then just by taking the time to talk to a kid, they're there for an incident, but to take the time to talk to them, and then here you have all these years later. An officer now who's been on CRT, been on gang, won Cop of the Year for Cops Cop, just because that influence that officer. And I think it's important to highlight that yes, we do our job, but you take the time to speak to kids and speak into their lives, you have no clue what's going to happen these years.
Well, because they're the future of that area.
Absolutely.
I mean, and for a young officer like
so that's
like
a great
Brandon
shout
here,
out to that officer.
Yes, that. What struck you most about that experience? I mean, just the professionalism, just the pure, genuine kindness, or all of it?
I think it's all of it.
Yeah.
And the defining moment for me, honestly, as a kid, was they didn't forget to hit the siren at the end, because
cool.
that tone came out, and they was like, "Oh, we got to go." And I don't know if it was they're about to run code 3. Now knowing it's about to run code 3 somewhere, or they didn't forget to hit the siren for me when they left. And for me, that was like, that's it. I'm about to become a police officer. So I think all of it together, but the very end, when those lights came on and that siren hit, that's what I was like, okay, I'm going to be a cop.
Do you continue to pay that forward now as an officer to young kids?
Oh, yeah,
Good.
Always.
It's important.
We say all the time, it was a point in time where we would start on Halloween. We would take a 50, which is our lunch break, and just pass out candy. Or I always carry stickers. I work off duty at North Park Mall, and every kid that comes and speaks to me, I give them a sticker.
Good.
And one of my biggest pet peeves as an officer is
here it comes.
Yeah,
the parents.
The parents saying, "Hey,
Oh.
Yes,
that officer's gonna go. You better be good." It's not my job to discipline your child.
Yeah.
Well, what he's not saying, he also will every time he does that, he goes and buys them something every time in the store, and then the parents are like, "Oh, thank you," but so it's always
Shit with North Park prizes, man.
yeah, for real. Well, no, we're talking about convenience.
Oh, okay.
It's funny the difference between parents, honestly, because some be like, "Hey, officer, thank you for your service. He's here to protect us." Then others is like, "You better be good."
Yeah.
And I think that translates into the apartment complexes too, because we'd be driving. I remember I was in Prince Hall, 4880 Sunnyvale, and drove in on one side of the apartment complex. I had a group of kids waving at me, and then drove to the other side, and a group of kids, small kids, pointing the middle finger at me. So It's very interesting. But we always make it a point to talk to the kids, because
they're going to grow up.
They're going to
like
grow
the
up.
other, and the other ones that were pointing the finger at, flipping you off, it may be a different story, and their interactions may have been different,
right?
And if you have 5 young kids standing there, and if your message resonates with just one of them, it's worth it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So how aware were you of South Dallas and the culture down there when you were young? Like what was your experience growing up? Did you see it as this is just normal, this is where I live, and this is my house?
Right.
And how does that relate to how you see it now? Because as police officers, we don't really see the good parts of society.
Right.
Most of us work third watch at Southeast, which is running and gunning, and you're doing a lot of police work dealing with the criminal element, and you don't really get to interact with the good people in South Dallas.
Exactly. That's why I make it a point to go out to the academy and talk to recruits, because the majority of people in South Dallas, Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, the bad areas of Dallas, as far as crime goes, are good, hardworking people.
Right.
And we only see that small percentage because we're going to calls, or we're doing the traffic stops, so they're bad guys and stuff like that. So I make a point to say, hey, look, majority of people over here work for everything that they have. Most choose to stay here because of the culture, and they don't know any different. So I always make it a point to go to schools and say there's more to life than South Dallas, though.
Yeah, we just recently went to Madison, where Di went.
It's the great James Madison.
I'm sorry.
Great.
Sorry.
Yeah, but
I don't think the sign says that, but I'll trust you.
Yeah, they changed it after 2013. But yeah, always the majority of, so growing up, I saw it, but we were obviously never involved. And as middle school, I would say middle school was where I saw people I went to elementary school with get involved in gangs and start having blue rags, and because I went to Billy O'Day, the old one, the small one, and Park Row was a big thing at the time. Because it was on Park Row, 2807 Park Row, as Billy O'Day Middle School, the old one.
So when he talks about Dade, I'm sorry, I know I should get to this funny story. We're in the academy, and we go to, when they take you to like one of the old schools, and they do like whatever the scenarios are, RBT. So we go to Dade Middle School, the old one, because it's still the building. And like Di is just wrecking it. Every scenario, he knows exactly where to go, all this stuff. And finally, one of the RBT guy was like, he's like, "How did you know this room had a closet?" He's like, "Because I went to middle school here."
Yeah. Damn, that's great.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
So I want to get into the Explorer program. I think that is extremely important in youth, right? And clearly it affected you. And there are a lot of other Dallas officers that started off in the Explorer program, and whenever you first heard about it, and you knew early on from that experience with the detectives and the officers out there, and they hit the siren, it meant to you knew you wanted to get in law enforcement. But once the Explorer program, you found out about it. Can you talk about that, what it is, and how you found out about it?
Yeah. I was riding my bike to the store at Spring and Lego, and saw a police Crown Vic, and the show Dallas SWAT was I saw every episode at the time, and at the time I believe the only female on SWAT was Misty Van Kuren, and she was standing right there at Spring and Lego, outside of her Crown Vic, and I stopped and talked to her. I actually called her by her name. I said, "Hey, Misty."
That's the great Misty Van Kuren.
Yeah, the great Misty Van
Kuren. The great. And she I figured she knew I knew her name because of the show, maybe. But she turned around and we talked, and she's like, "I'm actually waiting on a guy. He's a sniper. I don't remember his name. But he came and they were talking to me, and it's like, I think you're a little bit too young for the Explorers." But they wear those little, I think he said, ugly blue uniforms.
Similar to what y'all wore in the academy.
Yes. But yeah, definitely check out that program. And he reached in a trunk, and he gave me this old SWAT baseball cap. I still have it. It's at my mom's house.
That's cool.
And so I ride my bike home, and I look up the Explorer program, and Lieutenant Sally Lanham. I want to say I was maybe in middle school at the time when this happened. But I emailed Lieutenant Lanham, and she was like, yeah, you're too young. You can come pretty much a month before your 14th birthday. So I held on to that. In June, when I was 13 of 2009, I went to my very first Explorer meeting at Central, which was led by Amy Brewer and Steve Myers. Those were my first two Explorer advisors. So,
are you in contact with Steve still? You
I
know where he's at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I really think I'm that story brings a smile to my face because because it's so just seeing Misty out there on the street, and I know Misty as a person, and she's very excited. She, because of work, could not be here today, but she was real excited that you're going to come on, and seeing in that old Dallas SWAT show, the great Steve Claggett, he doesn't like talking about that show, right? Mm-hmm. But it's nice to hear that shows like that inspired young people back then, and I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me saying, God, I watched Dallas SWAT, and they listened to Claggett's episode, and Claggett's actually going to be here next week. He's going to be here next Thursday recording. Yep. We're doing another episode, and so if you can swing by, come by and meet him, and but it's just don't talk about SWAT. Sure. No, I'm kidding. But it's really inspiring to me that show and the Explorer program, that you actually gravitated to it, because there's several people in your community that it would repel. Right. So
if you get to meet Steve too, he's still just a mountain of a man.
Oh, he's still a beast.
And beautiful hair.
Oh yeah. Yeah, him and Dottie are like the Ken and Barbie of DPD back then. Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm excited to get him back behind the mic.
So you wore that weird blue uniform with the Explorer deal. Did your buddies in the neighborhood make fun of you for that?
No, I actually got respect for it.
Nice. Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because just like with everything on the police department, you have to earn it. At the time, the Explorer program, you have to earn everything you got. And it took about 6 months to earn that uniform. So I want to explain what the Explorer program is a little bit.
Yep.
It's designed for teenagers 14 to 20 who have an interest in law enforcement. And we give insight. I'm an Explorer advisor now. So what we do at the meetings, weekly meetings, we meet twice a week. This is my ad for the Explorers, by the way. Yeah. Meet twice a week at headquarters, Mondays and Thursdays from 6 to 8. We're going to work out. That's not changing. I'll make sure to tell the kids that's not changing.
You got to earn it.
First 30 minutes, we're going to work out. But then we'll go over different scenarios. And we teach them how we respond to robberies or burglaries or pretty much any call we can encounter. And generally they take all of that and they can go to competitions just like a sports team and compete against other Explorer posts throughout the nation. And the biggest thing for the Explorer program for me, and it's still now, is just the life skills you learn.
Structure,
discipline, professionalism.
And the thing
teaching
so a lot of your students, and I've helped out with you a lot, is some of them want to be criminal attorneys, right? So that someone wants to be in the FBI, so they're all learning like valuable assets to help them in their career path of choice at what they're looking for. So it's a great program.
It's not just about just learning to handcuff or clear a room, pie in a room when you're going to clear it. It's about, like you said, structure and life skills.
Right.
And
it's like being on I tell him this all the time. It's like being on a sports team. I coached for 10 years, and it's a team. They're a team. They get to compete. One thing he's not going to tell y'all, but y'all are sitting next to the Explorer of the Year for the entire state of Texas whenever he was in the program.
Rookie Explorer of the Year, too.
Yeah. You had to throw that one in there, too. Yeah, but see, I'm telling you, it gives opportunity, like you said, structure, and you're on a team, and, to see those kids take pride in it. That's the thing. You give them something to take pride in, and they'll work hard.
I could see how serious they are. And I know there are plenty school districts around in the area that have law enforcement programs, and I encourage I encourage all ISDs to have that, because it not only gives young kids an insight into the police world, but it also shows them structure and life skills. And if they ever want to join,
even if they don't want to be police officers, when I was an explorer, we had about 20, and you create lifelong friends. And a lot of those guys, I know Javier, he has a restaurant now. He's a chef. And Christian, he's in real estate and sells insurance and things like that. And even if you don't become a cop, you still have things that make you a productive citizen of the city. And outside of that, we take trips. When I was an explorer, we went to Topeka, Kansas 3 years in a row for a competition. We were there for almost a week, and we did other things too, rock climbing. The road trip itself is just fun. Being in a hotel, playing pranks. We had a rivalry with Topeka PD, and it was probably the best 16th birthday somebody could have, because I was in Topeka, Kansas for my 16th birthday at the Explorer competition, and the rivalry with Topeka Explorers and Aurora, Colorado Explorers, we put "honk if you're horny" on the back of their van.
I wrap that on my car every day.
Then they were at Chili's, and we was pretty much staking out waiting for them to leave. So we went behind them, and we just started beeping the horn. So went to Hooters for my 16th birthday.
Wow.
Might get some people in trouble.
Statute of limitations. Statute of limitations.
It's been a few years.
Mom's like, what?
And they literally broke into our van. Oh, no. They put butter on all our door handles and stuff like that. So we're literally driving.
You hope it's butter.
Yeah, for real.
They're driving around Topeka, playing pranks on each other. Those old Ford vans, all the keys work to the same ones. So, so it's not a BMV. It's not a BMV.
Be careful what you're going to.
There's another insider tip there.
Yeah.
So take their mold rifles out of the van, and it's the award ceremony time. And they knew we didn't have long guns. So when we get called up for awards, we have their rifle molds. And they was like, "How'd y'all get those?" It's like, your van was unlocked.
Yeah. What?
So it's a good time. It's just a trip in itself. It's just teenagers having fun. And like Amy got mad at us one time. It was freezing cold. We were in Waxahachie. We had the idea to go jump in a pool, and she was asleep. And then she was like, "Y'all did what?" So it was very fun. Just the trips itself, and just the life skills you learn and the friendships you make. So even if you don't want to be a police officer, the Explorer program is still great to be a part of.
To me, I equate it to, like, say if you want to go play basketball, or like in college, only one of us from my team played college. That was me. But everybody that played basketball together, and like in high school, we all learned like team building and life skills and doing the same stuff. So it's a great opportunity for students to be a part of something that's better or bigger than themselves.
Well, I think you are living proof of that right there, because here you are, academy classmates, and still that continues, right?
Yep.
How does somebody get involved with the Explorers if they're interested, for the listeners?
We have a youth outreach program now. So you could contact Evelyn Rosado or Nathan Martinez, and they're the Explorer program advisors. Or you can just show up to any one of the 7 substations or headquarters and ask for information. They all should have pamphlets with contact information.
And I'll co-sign on this real quick. I've known you for about an hour now. I would let you instruct my kids. I mean, you want to talk about how professionalism was there? Yes. Like, Joe and I, we're pretty immature for our age. For any age, of that matter.
Yeah.
And you've been nothing but professional so far. I'm very impressed. So, yeah, absolutely. If your kids are looking to do anything, get them in touch with Brandon Dye.
Yeah, and if any of the listeners they want to, hell, I'll get them in contact. Also, if they want to reach out, atobridgen@gmail, reach out to me. I will get you in contact with Gray and Rosado and the Explorer program, because I think it is a super beneficial in so many ways, and everything just Brandon and Holmes just mentioned. Yeah. So I want to get into the academy. You finally got into the uniform. and y'all got out on the streets. I want you talked about it off air. Holmes did. Where did you want to go whenever you graduated? What did you put down? Where did you want when you graduated? What part of town did you want to go to?
I wanted to go to South Central, which is Oak Cliff, South Oak Cliff.
Why is that?
Because of my mentor, Stephen Pappas.
Oh, he's great.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great trainer.
He trained both of us.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Need to have him on too.
Yeah. To-do list.
To be fair,
Yes.
I invited him. He ain't here.
Oh, man.
He stood me up.
He's also very he's very humble in the sense of if you look so many rookies he trained they'll go wherever they want.
I'll get Foy.
That's
I know
right.
Foy's going to listen. Foy will give him a direct order. Come
That's
out here
right.
because he's over all that.
Yeah.
He'll be here. We'll get him here.
Real quick, I want to talk about Pappas because you asked me. I believe I'm a product of the village. I have some defining moments like the Christmas Day when I was a kid, but the Explorer program was my village, and I had Big Brothers Big Sisters program. My mom signed us up for that, and I specifically wanted a police officer. My sister got her big sister within like a month, and I said I want a Dallas police officer. I will wait until you get me a Dallas police officer, and it took about a year almost. Like right when I was joining the Explorer program, I was like, "Yep, we found you one. His name is Stephen Pappas, and he'll meet you next week." So I was 13 at the time, and Pappas is from Michigan. He said he was a big brother, and he was involved in a program in Michigan, and he wanted to do it. So when he came down here to Dallas, I believe he had joined the department in 2007. And he had been on maybe 2 or 3 years at the time. Well, it would have to be 2 years. And, yeah, ever since. He's been a big part of not just the officer I am, but the man I am, too.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Because just going with him weekly and seeing him. And then the fun part was when I turned 16, I was able to do ride-alongs. And we racked in with Pappas and Oak Cliff probably about over 1,000 hours of ride-alongs. I actually got him a certificate of merit.
Yeah.
Because one of the things in general orders, if you do 200 hours of Explorer ride-alongs, you get a certificate of merit. So
we did the math. On training, you're on train for 6 months. You have your different trainers. Di did more time in the car with Pappas than you get on training. So when he started the academy, when I say that every one of us was asking him, like, he knew everything already. Like, he ruined all the scenarios, all the RBT. Everybody else would do it wrong. He would do it right. And they're like, I mean, it was hilarious. And then I remember telling him, all the time, it's like, man, I'm going to come ask you questions because, dude, I mean, if I fail, dude, I got bills to pay.
So there's nothing wrong with being a student of the game, right?
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah. Yep.
So Pappas is the reason I went to South Central or wanted to go to South Central, and that's what got me involved in proactive police work.
In proactive policing, it is, in a lot of ways, it is because of the call load, because going call to call and for patrol, you almost have to get out of patrol to get involved, be proactive, because hell, you can't. Some days you can't even get out on a 5-8 or do traffic because I know there's workarounds. Trust me, I did plenty of it, but the proactive policing has, in my opinion, declined quite a bit from the old late 90s.
I bet Pappas would disagree.
That
dude is the text. Oh God, man! Like if you could create an FTO, that's
no, I know who he
fits the
is.
mold
That
right
last
there,
year of on the streets, I was at South Central and Foy, and I knew Pappas. Yeah, he's but that's actually he's an outlier too from what the norm is.
You're 100% correct, but even just in the 8 years, I was saying we have to reevaluate what constitutes a 911 call.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the problem with that is that the call load is from someone we were patrolled in CRT and gang, then we promoted, get kickback patrol, and then I got sent up to channel 2, and these calls are holding for 3 or 4 days. But these are not they should not be police calls. So you're right, it is hard to do proactive stuff whenever you still have to answer these calls because they're put in. So
we got to go. I mean, you just can't. Well, no, hang on. I want to go chase dope, or I want to go jack up some gang members. But you got to do that too. But that's. Everything is symbiotic in a division where it's call or because a lot of the calls are about the gang activity or about the drug activity. Yep. So you have to go and you have to respond. Mm-hmm. So speaking of response, and we're going ahead. but I want to get into July 7th, 2016. Where were y'all at? Were y'all riding together?
No, we were actually on the third phase of training.
Okay.
And I was riding with Pappas as my third phase trainer.
I was with Oscar Carter. Yeah.
Oh, Oscar's great.
Yeah, the great.
Oscar's awesome. I
Yeah.
talked to him about a month ago. Yeah. He doesn't age.
Yeah,
He's like a damn vampire. He just stays looking the same.
He's
Oh,
like
Jack.
6'5", like probably 270, jacked black dude. That's just freaking swole.
Professional.
Juicy.
Oh
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah. He's so. He is so. Yeah.
I used
so
to love when he
professional.
was training me. I get out the car and someone start talking crap, man, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I got something for me." And then he'd get out the car and they're
And
like,
as
"Oh,
he's getting out, the shocks are going down.
The car literally moves."
Yeah.
He's one of those ones that nobody wants to talk to you. They all want to talk to Oscar because he's just like he's a superhero.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
he's like an
Oscar,
action figure, a lot like Brandon here. You know, you jump out of the
Yep.
car and they don't want to even talk to this skinny white dude.
Yeah,
They're like,
I
hey, let
know.
me talk to that guy.
Oh yeah, we'll go with the guy that looks like he can't beat me up.
Yeah.
hurts my feelings. Yeah.
I'll let Holmes talk first because he was actually involved.
I was right down in the middle of everything. So,
Okay.
So we were at South Central Station. Went to bath. I was running the bathroom. Oscar Carter, he yells at me, "Get in the car. We're going now." And I was like, oh, "Okay." So we take off. We're going from there, and just a calmness. You know, he says, "Call your wife. Be calm. Tell her that there are officers down. That you're okay. That you're fine." So I'm like, "Okay, yes, sir." So I pull my phone out, and I tried to be as calm as I can, you know. But we're also going about 140 miles an hour. And Oscar, if you look at the body camera, he's about to rip off the steering wheel because he's just getting there.
And he could do it.
And he could do it, yes. So we're getting there. And so we get downtown and right there by El Centro, and you just hear the gunshots going everywhere. You know, I've got a cousin that was in SWAT in Arlington for 11 years. He's a newly promoted sergeant, and he's been a real big influence in my life. And he sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, man, everybody's saying, you know, hey, there's body armor, multiple shooters. Make sure it's a headshot." You know, and this is because, you know, that's what his mentality is. That's because he was in SWAT for 11 years. And then I found out later that he's texting my mom's. My mom was asking what's going on because I'm, you know, new cop on the street, and he was like, "Oh, they won't send him down there. He's on training." So he's trying to like call everything. So the crazy thing is we're running towards El Centro. I can see people, I see officers on the ground. Run to El Centro. I see a young black male come running towards me, and he falls on the ground, and so I pick him up. And I'm yanking him out to the side to try to help him. And I looked down, I'll never forget this, and he had a "fuck the police" shirt on.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, but then he was so grateful. Like, he was so grateful. And
That shirt didn't matter at that point.
Oh, yeah. He was like, thank you so much, just crying as I'm yanking him and screaming, getting him out of the way. Because it's absolute chaos.
It was a war zone.
Yep. So, and the thing is, I had another individual had just texted me that night talking about that protest. He's like, "Do you think something bad is going to happen?" And I'm pretty sure I did. I sent a screenshot, like a picture of me and Oscar, but like, no, the department is, you know, we have a lot of black officers. We're very good at community policing. You know, nothing's going to happen. And that's what I was thinking at the time. So, you know, it was kind of a shock to get down there and see all that for me. And then we get to El Centro Garage, and a sergeant looks at me. Now, remember, I'm 31, so he doesn't know that I'm still on training. Mm-hmm. He puts me in a diamond, and next thing I know, we are clearing. It's just me, and we finish. We cleared the whole 11 stores. You know, I'm actually, you know, I'm finishing up training. I'm on Channel 8, you know, on SWAT, giving information about what I'm seeing across the, you know, as I can see into the building. So, you know, then I'm looking across, looking into that, and then I'm looking down and seeing the vest that they had taken off officers. So it was a very, like man, this
surreal.
Surreal moment. Like, this is crazy. And then my last week, you know, I'm going to funerals. My last week on training is going to funerals. That's all I did. So it was a big eye opener for me. I will tell you, like, to see officers run toward the fight, it was really inspiring. But you see all walks of life: black, white, Hispanic, Asian, female, male, age, young, old. Everybody's trying to get there, and that was a moment for me that thought that it truly is a brotherhood. And so that was a really important time for early on in my career.
Brandon, where were you at?
Riding with Pappas, we were at the jail.
Corey, right down the road.
we were
Just like you just said.
we were supposed to get off at 4, and we ended up getting a DWI, and they had the news on in the report writing area, and you look up on the news and you say 1 officer killed and others shot, and then like a few minutes later you see 2 officers killed, and I'm like, can we leave? It's literally like a mile down the street. And he's like, no, we have to stay here and take care of this. So long story short, we finished with the arrest. By the time we left the jail, the shooter was dead, and we went back to South Central. They were saying come back to the station, and there were like hundreds of 911 calls holding.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into the station, and it's just this feeling of, I don't even know how to describe it, looking at each officer, and it's like, we don't know what to do. So the plan was we were only going to answer priority 1 calls. So sure enough, South Central being South Central, 2 tones come out back to back, both the shootings. So we go to ours in the 40s, which is the Camp Wisdom and Chauncey Place area, and it was nothing. So by that time they said, just answer calls, start answering priority 2s, and officers are riding 3, 4, 5 deep. But yeah, we weren't able to be down there, but came in on the back end and started answering calls. So that was still to date. I've been on department just at 8 years now, the longest day I've worked, almost a full 24 hours.
Mentally and physically, that's the thing. I want the listener to understand that what July 7th was to the city and to the country. It was the worst day in first responder history since 9/11, and it was right here. And like Brandon's just describing, this is going on downtown. Right. Yes, the shooter was dead, but there were many injured and many dead, right. And Jacob, he just talked about the brotherhood. There were people that were broken.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah. That ball kept bouncing, right? Yep. We didn't get just some businesses. I'll go home the rest of the day, you have to go out there and you have to deal with other people's violence and other people's issues, and you have to compartmentalize everything and continue with your job.
24/7, 365.
Yeah, and even going to the funerals. We had other Garland, and we had all these other agencies, Fort Worth, coming over here helping us answer calls. That way we can actually go to these funerals, and not everybody had to go. So that's the other side. This critical incident, this life-changing incident happened in the middle of downtown Dallas, but nothing stopped.
That's one of the issues with law enforcement and mental health is that you don't take the time. You
can't process.
You're not a dentist. You can't take 2 weeks of bereavement leave. You've got to come back, or you've got to continue that same day. Yep. We don't get to set the timetable on any of that stuff. So once it happens, it's really important. Now I see it. Right now I understand that you need to take the time and actually process it. You need to make it a priority to say, hey, what actually happened here? Run it through your mind. Talk to somebody about it. If you don't, it's going to come back to you. One of these days it's going to come back. If you don't confront it, it's going to confront you. And just like any bad guy out here, I would take just about anybody on face to face. I don't want to be snuck up on.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with your mental health. You've got to challenge it before it challenges you.
Because it will challenge you. I was just talking to an officer. I'm not going to say what department. I don't want to identify him. He was just telling me he's dealing with something. He just Tuesday this week. Today's Friday. Just Tuesday this week dealt with something that's been haunting him for 25 years that he saw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I would encourage anybody that has gone through. You don't even have to go through an incident like that. That's a rare incident.
Yeah.
In law enforcement.
I think that it's important that as officers that we are willing to speak, to each other, and I'm talking about about your
Get real.
Yeah, get real. Your personal life, like every story that I've talked about with Brandon and Di here today. We've already had these conversations. We've talked through these things. I'll tell him, hey man, this is what I'm going through, man. I'm struggling with this right now. When he was younger, he would just kind of sit there and listen because he didn't have as much life experience. And then, as he's gotten older, he's like, well, you shouldn't do this because this is stupid. I'm like, all right, that's fair. So, having those actual real conversations about what's going on in your life and how does this affect you. We have a picture. I remember it's like when we were like just pretty young on the street, and it's us and another officer, and we're just smiling, just all of us together. We were on a shooting, stabbing, and then a wreck that happened right outside, like 2755 East Ledbetter. And I had just held this lady, and she died in my hands. And like I still remember, like I remember her, like looking at her, like this is it, and telling her like, hey, it's okay. I'm trying to tell her like she's like, I could see her taking her last breath. And then we look at the picture, and I'm just smiling, and I'm like, dude, it's a fake smile. It is a fake smile.
A lot of despair behind that.
Oh, absolutely.
Fake smile.
Oh, it's because I'm like, dude, I'm hurting. I'm hurting because that stinks to see someone go through that. To see. So, I think it's extremely important to be open about those type of things, to talk through those things. It's not weakness; it's strength. I mean, it's totally strength. So if you're willing to talk about and speak about the things that you're going through, it's going to help you. And ultimately, I've been married for 15 years, and I have 3 kids. So I can tell you the success of that is being open and talking the truth. And, and you have to. Otherwise, you're going to suffer.
It's definitely harder to talk about it than it is to keep it inside.
Yeah.
So the strength actually comes from being able to admit that you want to talk about something.
100%.
I mean, it's just like public speaking. Everybody wants to sit down and watch somebody else do it, but actually getting up there is the hard part.
Yep.
Oh, and the more you do it, the more you get a lot better at it, and it's more comfortable. And I'm really a introvert, but I masquerade as an extrovert sometimes. But the days that I do, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Like doing this podcast today.
Yes.
I was talking to you on the break that it's very exhausting because it's therapeutic in a way for y'all to tell your story from childhood to 7/7 to lady die in your and then talking about lady dying into your arms. But me being a sponge, it's exhausting for
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah.
But it's also therapeutic for me to sit with people like you to hear your stories and see. I could see physical reactions when y'all are talking about these things. Y'all, I'm watching y'all. I could actually literally see physical reactions and mannerisms. And going back to Chris White episode or Misty talking about Martell, there's always a physical reaction when people get to a point of their story that you can tell that is painful for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to talk about 2018 Memorial Day at the great Butterbean Apartments.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell the listener, give a little synopsis about that incident and talk about the Butterbean, what that apartment complex is like?
2836 East Overton, People's El Shaddai Apartments. It used to be called they called it Butterbeans back in the day. The gang out of that is Butterbean Boys.
Sounds tough.
Butterbean Boys, sounds tough.
Yeah.
It's like the Buttercup Thugs over in Pleasant Grove.
Yeah.
So directly next to the Butterbeans, we still call it the Butterbeans today. The actual name, like I said, is People's El Shaddai. Is a store called Discount Beer and Wine. And Pappas had given us some intel about this guy who ran from him earlier in the day. He's like, I couldn't catch him. I'm getting old. So I know y'all can catch him. So we pull in. He shows us his picture earlier that day, and we pull in. We see him. He's up there. He's always up there. He takes off running, and directly next to the store is a hole in the fence that leads to the Butterbeans. So we put out there. We're on the ground, and the hole isn't big enough for us to fit through at our uniforms. So by the time we get to the hole, it's like, oh, we can't fit through there. We had already put out the assist, right? So we reduce everybody, and we say disregard everybody. We don't need anybody. The guy got away. So we're sitting in the parking lot of Discount, and we hear 4 gunshots, like super close. And it's a car wash right there at Bonneview and Overton. And we know it has to be coming from the car wash. At the time, that car wash was popping.
Everybody's selling dope over there. So
it's heavy drug sales, heavy foot and vehicle traffic, prostitution, anything you can think of was happening at that car wash. So, and it's 3 cars of us. Holmes and Average was in one car. I was in the car by myself, and Shiloh Sams, she was in the car by herself. So
shout out Shiloh.
Shout out. So Holmes and Average goes first, and they see this red Camaro just peel out and take off. So pretty much thinking that's the car that did it.
Yeah, that's your shooter. Yeah. So.
It started going from the car wash towards the Butterbeans. And from what I see, I just see people pointing towards the red Camaro because I'm the 3rd car. Directly across from the Butterbeans, this car pulls into the driveway, almost drives into the backyard. And by the time I catch up, Holmes and Average, they're doing a felony traffic stop. So they're screaming at this guy. We get him out the car. And mind you, it's Memorial Day. And at the Butterbeans, they're having this cookout.
Yeah. Lots of people out.
Yeah. There's at least 100 people in the playground area of the Butterbeans. So we catch up. We get him out the car. He's like, this guy just tried to rob me. The guy who was driving, he's the only person in the car. He's like, this guy, he's trying to rob me. What he look like? He's a black guy wearing all black with dreads.
Now, mind you, this guy also had a gun and 88 bags of crack in his car, too. So, so he's not like the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a businessman.
Yeah, he's a businessman. Yeah.
Sure enough, he's playing, this guy tried to rob me, this guy tried to rob me. We get the description, and sure enough, literally, this guy, he's walking up, black male wearing all black with short dreads, coming from the car wash. And he has like this death stare at this guy. And he's just walking to him, and we're screaming at him, get back, what are you doing? Then it clicks like, oh, wait a minute, this is the suspect he's talking about. So we go up to him, hey, man, turn around real quick, and then grab him, and the fight's just on at that point.
This athletic dude. Yeah.
We go to the ground. You want to take over this part?
Yeah, at this point, so we're trying to give him cuffs, and he's fighting, and then you get that worst feeling ever where there's a hand on your gun that's not yours. And that feeling was at that point, we do it, in my mind, if you really train serious, I believe that you don't have to think a lot about it. You're going to do the retention drill. I remember pressing down, and he's got so I just put it back. So we had just been in a felony traffic stop. So the hood didn't go all the way down. So all he had to do was hit that one little thumb notch, and it's halfway out. So we're fighting over it. So I'm telling him, hey, he's got my gun. Watch out. And I'm holding on to my left hand, holding on to the gun. And at this point, he's like trying to get it. I can see him. So I had to give him some strikes to the face to make sure that, he'll let go of my gun. At this point, it's pretty much almost a lethal force. So striking him enough where his face is getting bloody. So this is all happening, right? And then right across the street that we just talked about the culture earlier, that this becomes a scene and a theater, right? So a theater. So they're watching and screaming, and all they can see is all they think is we're just beating this guy's ass, right? But that's not at all what we're doing. We're trying to just trying to keep him from getting my gun and trying to shoot us, kill us. And I tell people all the time, especially people that are not police, they think every fight a police officer in, there's at least one gun involved. We have officers that get killed all the time with their own weapon. So I'm doing that, giving him the strikes, and finally he doesn't go unconscious from the strikes, but he's definitely dazed and confused. So we're able to get him in the handcuffs. But at that point, it was the theater. It was like the Roman Empire is throwing like the Colosseum, and everybody's mad. And they're throwing everything, rocks and bottles, and and here we are trying to stop this crack, dealer and this other guy from shooting at each other, so that way some of these kids don't get hit right across the street, and then yet now everybody's turning on us. So one interesting fact about that story was Di tried to able me before able was a thing. So once I got him in cuffs, right? So it's over. I got him in cuffs. He's done. We're gonna have to get EFR there. He's bleeding pretty bad. So at this point, I've got a hold of him, and I look, but we still have our other suspect. We still have a car. We still have a gun that we have to get. So everybody's trying to do their thing, and I look over, and there's a large rock that lands right by the suspect's head. And I'm thinking, man, this is going to be bad if I don't get him out. So I have to yank him away So I'm yanking him away. And so I'm body camera, and we looked at it, and you hear Doug go, Holmes, it's over, man. Hey, you're good. I was like, and I knew what he was saying, because I knew he was trying to look out for me. Right. It hurt my feelings, right? He's trying to look out for me. I said, no, man, the rock almost hit him in the head. They're throwing stuff. And then by the time we turn around, you just see bottles and rocks. They're throwing it at us. So.
Well, because you get so laser focused and what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
There's the bigger picture is
absolutely
the bigger threat. Right?
Yeah. Right. But the good news was, like I said, he's trying to look out for me, trying to make sure I wasn't, doing anything wrong. And I was just trying. I didn't want, although he just went for my gun, right? It's over. I don't want him to get killed by somebody else. For one, I don't want them to blame me. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
right?
He's in custody.
He's in custody. He's mine. So
he's yours, and you got to get evacuated out of there with your arrest.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. Sergeant showed up. I was like, "Hey, Sarge, we got to relocate. They're throwing stuff at us." Pretty much, hey, we heard gunshots. We went over to drive to see what happened, and the car took off. We did a felony traffic stop. This guy walks up. He claims he was robbed. The suspect walks up. We fight him. And that's what happened. So we relocate. We do an inventory of the car and everything. And like Holmes said, it was 88 bags of crack and a pistol under the front seat. It's a 10-round pistol and had 6 bullets in it. And we heard 4 gunshots.
Yeah.
So longer story short, we pretty much stopped a drug deal going bad.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And it was just right in front of us.
And it was just literally less than a tenth of a mile away from us.
Yeah, I mean, from the community standpoint and the Butterbeans, they think we're just doing a traffic stop and then just starting to beat a guy's ass for it has nothing to do with that. It's nothing. It was the fact that we're trying to stop them from shooting each other.
And that's easy assumption.
Yep.
Right.
So the joke of it all, if you're ever wondering why 28, 30, 60 East Overton is a mandatory 4-man location, that's why.
Yeah, that's why we created that.
Well. There's a lot of 4-man locations out there in South Central and Southeast.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about an arrest that went viral. So whoever wants to jump into that, I want the listener. I want y'all to paint a picture for the listener of this arrest with Trap Boy.
So by the time we're in our proactive realm, we're kind of in our prime at this time. Everybody knows that we're the proactive guys on the watch and everything. So in detail,
word gets out on that. Trust me. When you're proactive, people know.
And then the sergeants had given us freedom. They're like, "Hey, you guys are doing things the right way. Y'all go do proactive work." So in South Central, I say we probably got about 12 or 13 spots that was in our rotation. We're literally starting the 50s, work our way around to the 40s, go up to the 20s, just pretty much a big circle, and it's like a fishing game. Yeah. And we're literally looking for. We don't care about a user. Yeah. We're looking for an actual a drug dealer that's going to have weapons, that's going to terrorize the community. Right. We want them out. That's what we're looking for.
So that's my plug for. And for the stigma that's attached to proactive policing. Growing up in Dallas, being a Dallas police officer, the way to reduce violent crime is through proactive policing and community policing on a day-to-day basis. Yes, the big events, the community events are great. We're going to continue doing them, but it's the day-to-day interactions. Taking the extra 5-10 minutes to play basketball, to stop and talk to somebody, to ask somebody questions.
Or like when someone calls out Misty's name and she takes the time to go, "Hey, let me talk to this kid." Yeah. What difference does that make? That's the community. But it takes 5 minutes, right? It takes 5 minutes of your day. So
that mixed with getting a gun before it's used in an offense is ultimately how crime is reduced. If we get the gun before it's used in the shooting, that's perfect. Even though it's just a misdemeanor charge, we got that gun off the streets. So that was our goal, is to get the gun and a violent felon on a day-to-day basis. So that area, the Lancaster, Ann Arbor area, Lancaster, Ledbetter area, they had seen an increase in shootings. So the major at the time came to detail, and he was like, "Hey, can y'all show 4903 South Lancaster, that's Autry's, some love?" Because it wasn't in our rotation. It was not until that day, it was not a part of our rotation of what we call hotspots. So I was like, okay, we'll go by there. And we're trying to figure out the best angle to come in the parking lot and stuff like that, because you can't come in off Lancaster because the train tracks. So we decide, hey, we're going to go in at Kingsley and turn in the parking lot. So we see about maybe 10 dudes in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is not a secret, is the person who who moves the quickest, the person who throws something, the person who's wearing a backpack, the person who goes inside the store the quickest.
Gun, many times.
We can see the bull just throwing something under the car. That's what we're looking for. If it's 10 guys out there, we can't stop everybody. So we're looking for the guy who probably has something with those furtive gestures.
In this incident, the thing is that they were actually, the group was filming a rap video.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I had a different mentality, I'm not going to lie, than what Di did. Di was actually showing up to do real police work. I was trying to get in a rap video. That's just a reality situation.
Mission accomplished, eh?
Yeah. It did actually eventually happen.
For me, what I saw was a group of males in front of a store. A criminal trespass affidavit is in effect at the store. I see a guy who is wearing, I believe, a white long johns shirt and black pants. He's smoking weed in front of the store. We have a city ordinance. You can't smoke within 15 feet of an entranceway.
Got that question right on the senior corporal
Yes,
exam.
I got that right.
So that was it. I was like, I got this one. I got a history to that one.
So we have reason to talk to him, and as soon as we hit the car, as soon as they see that SWAT car, he dodges in the store. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and talk. That's our guy. Before we got out of the car, at the time I would call it, hey, white long sleeve shirt, black pants. Just went inside the store, and as we're walking in the store, he comes out. I say, hey guy, let me talk to you. I look picked up guy from Pappas.
Which usually is indicative of the fact that we'd had numerous arrests where they go in the store and they just dish the gun.
Oh, yeah.
And then you detain him because what he's done, and then you go back and look at the video and you see him throwing the gun. So that's what we're like, okay, yeah, we're just going to grab him, detain him, and then it is what it is. So
reach out to grab him, he takes off. I actually did grab him by his tricep, and he jerked away and took off. So he's running. He turns right there. Like Denley?
Yeah.
Denley, yeah. Turns right there in Denley, and he turns and faces me, and he's kind of getting down on the ground, but that's not completely compliant.
Yeah.
So I push him completely to the ground. Give me your hands, give me your hands. He does the number where he goes, his hands is underneath his body. If he's laying face down on the ground, his hands are underneath his body. So by that time, Holmes catches up, and we're giving him commands, give me your hands, give me your hands. And Holmes hits him once in the face, and then he gives us hands.
It's effective.
Yeah. Put him in handcuffs. By this time, Holmes puts it out. It was very rare because generally at that time, Holmes was always first in a foot chase.
Not so much anymore with that flat tire, huh?
Yeah. I mean, hey, I got a reputation of being the old white guy that can catch people.
Oh, yeah.
In South Central.
You have a long stride.
Yes, I do.
Sometimes reputation's better than being fast.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's true.
So we get him in handcuffs, and
can I just say though, real quick? You said that you were first, but I'm not joking. I was literally like getting in the rap video and waving. I was trying to and then I look up. I'm like, oh crud, he's running. Here we go. Yeah. So I had a little hesitation there. So.
Well, we can race now and see who wins.
No,
man, I got.
Hey, I'll get a video, and I'll probably get a bunch of damn likes on that one.
Yeah, I know, for real.
Post this episode.
Give me a few months. His knee's still not ready yet.
So we get him in handcuffs, and the crowd's forming. The same traditional.
Yep.
Hey, the police are here, and at the time, I had some intelligence that this house that we tackled him in front of was a dope house. And it's a historic dope house. It's always been a dope house.
Yeah, got a plaque out front.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I really didn't care. I mean, my target was in front of me. So we get people yelling at us, and at the time we had become somewhat of experienced in crowd control. And hey, you can stay over there and record all you want to. Would never ever have an issue with people recording. As policing in general, I want to make that very clear that we don't have an issue with recording because we're recording.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I came into policing in the area of body cameras to cover everything I do, because everything I do is with purpose and with pretty much trying to serve the city.
And it's evidence.
Make it safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good evidence. Yeah.
So, hey, we pretty much came experienced in crowd control. Hey, you can stay over there, but don't come over here. If you come over here, you're going to jail. And it's called interference with public duties.
And then, of course, in one lady's like, well, he's saying he can't breathe. I'm like, well, that's because he just ran. It's like we're not on top of him or anything. He can't breathe because he smokes weed and he just ran. So
at this point, he's in a recovery position. And I'm trying to get information from the people yelling at us. We're talking on the radio, getting people to come. So we're thinking it's just a crowd forming because that's what happens when the police chase somebody. But then Randy Mays shows up. He's a sergeant now. And he's like, you know who that is, right? It's like, no, I don't know who that is. He's like, that's Trap Boy Freddy. And he shows me his Instagram. And he has a few 100,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, okay. Local Dallas rapper, right? For me, I listen to country music and R&B music. That's it. I have a few rap songs and listen to rap when I'm around certain people, but for me, on my playlist, it's R&B and country.
I'm a big Trap Boy Freddy fan. By the way.
Good luck with that.
Then I look at my phone, and again, where the streets talk. And the first thing, get a message from Detective Scudder. Me and him and Holmes are in a group chat, and he's like, "Oh, how'd y'all get him?" And I'm like, unbeknownst to me exactly what he was involved in and what he was doing. So then I'm starting getting text messages. My twin sister calls me because she's like, "You arrested Trap Boy?" I was like, "I guess so."
Damn right I did.
Yeah. And so the whole thing went viral. And honestly, what happened for us after that was kind of like a stamp for us.
Yeah.
So because that day I interviewed for CRT.
Yep.
And then the next morning he had his interview.
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, and I'll say this is, you know, people try to put on a facade and act a certain way. He was nothing but respectful for us in jail. Nothing but respectful. Yeah. Of course, he posted a viral video saying how we were, bad cops and everything. But that's, it's interesting is we had built enough of a reputation in South Central that people they knew us and they knew what they were, and they're like, "No, we know that was just for the clout." Yep. Like they knew us. They knew that we had treated. We've been in so many foot chases. We arrested so many people, and then still treated them with respect afterwards, and tried to speak into their lives. That people in South Oak Cliff weren't. There was no.
He's just playing a character.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it works.
Yeah, so. Right. And what happened with that video, the Trap House that I mentioned earlier, they released the video. Public news to be made public shortly.
Yeah.
They released the video, and it was a looped video.
Yes.
The use of force was probably about 6 seconds. They released a 14-second video.
They looped it so it looks like we're going like back and forth on top of them. Like, that's so fake, obviously.
And Trap Boy posted that on his Instagram account. Then this is where it went viral.
Yeah.
When Yellow Beezy, because they're cool, he posted on his Instagram account.
Yeah.
And the effect for that, I had some people telling me, hey, go ahead and deactivate your Facebook, deactivate your Instagram. I was like, for what? So, and I see everything that all of my high school classmates are posting, and I was like, did they forget we're Facebook friends? I mean, you can inbox me and I can tell you what happened. So yeah, honestly, only one person I went to high school with inboxed me and said, I know you were doing the right thing. I hope you have a better night. And that was it. But nobody confronted me about it. Nobody said anything. Yeah, they talk crap on Facebook. I saw the posts. I saw all of them. And it was so hard not to comment because it's like, you can simply ask me. We sat next to each other in class. I haven't changed. My purpose is still the same. And this rapper who does damage to the community, and I'm not talking about rapping. I'm trying to.
We can't get too far into that, but yeah.
But and I didn't know who he was. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, he was just another guy. We had been in 17 or so foot chases that during that period of that summer.
Yeah, just the summer.
Yeah, just within that, coming off that summer, because this was November. Yeah. Coming off that summer, I think we had like a total like 17 foot chases. Yeah.
We've been, like I said, it's 8 years. We've had a lot of opportunities. We've been well over, probably close to 150 foot chases at this point, being in CRT, gang unit and stuff. And that's what we worked in that area. That's what we were passionate about, and trying to stop those specific people from, dealing drugs, which eventually lead to getting shootings, and those bullets don't have names on them. And so, for us, that's important that we were able to stop that. And so that's where we're not just chasing random people. We're trying to, we know what we're looking for.
Well, it's proactive policing. Yeah. If you're proactive, you're going to get in a foot chase. You're going to get into scuffles and fights.
Exactly. It's going to happen. So,
yeah. So as a result, and then just like everything else, it blows over, and it it stamped us, I believe, to get on CRT, then eventually the gang unit together. Then as a result of that, every time we would have like an event, Oak Cliff related, because that's where Trap Boy's from, he would be there, and then he would swear that we're following him. I was like, no, bro, we're in a gang unit, and you happen to be a part of that population.
Yeah.
So,
you're a documented gang man, brother. That's part of our job. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what happened with the whole Trap Boy Freddy incident.
So you guys have permanent backstage passes to all his shows?
That's actually funny, because at the Dub Car Show, we did have backstage passes where he was performing, and there was a video saying that released on YouTube saying that they're stalking him.
Yeah,
so it's like, no,
yeah, right.
no,
we don't care anything about, man. Just no offense, but you're
just going to be around you constantly and not do anything.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah,
I want to get into, so you say you have a lot of Facebook friends from high school classmates, and honestly, you're still very young. You're not that far removed from the high school life. Have you had any negative experiences from folks from high school that you grew up with because you're a police officer?
I think just the general thing that I'm a cop is what's the negative part for some people.
Yeah, just can't get over that part.
Mind you, I've pulled over people that I've went to school with, didn't write them tickets. There's been, in the gang unit, there's been people who's been a part of operations.
Well, let me clarify. You're saying didn't write them tickets just because we don't write tickets to just people for hardworking people, not because.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear. Yep. That that's not what we're in the business of doing.
Not just because they helped you with your biology test.
Yeah. So
no quid pro quo here.
Yeah. There's nothing. Yeah. I just want to make that clear that neither one of we just don't. That's not what we do. And there's a place for tickets. Absolutely, there's an importance for that. And that type of policing, but when we're pulling someone over, there's a reason that we're trying to talk to them.
Right. But the negative is just Facebook. Anytime I think something would happen in Dallas regarding a police officer or something, then my name would get thrown out there, and then it's like, well, and how I'm gonna sell out of my Uncle Tom and stuff like that.
How do you deal with that?
Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think it was because growing up at a young age, I didn't want to be a cop. I know I'm doing this for the right reasons, to make a safer Dallas. And it's a form of giving back to the community I grew up in. This is the baffling part for me, because it's kind of like, how can most people support somebody who commits crimes in an area that they grew up in? You're taking away from the person who stays in the same apartment complex, the person who stays 2 streets over, who's probably going through the same struggles you are. Mm-hmm. And you're committing crimes against those people who had the same upbringing as you. But they can support that person. Hey, free him. What's the saying? Free him till it's backwards. All that stuff. He's committing ag robberies. He's committing he's in stolen cars, stolos, and it's like, he can do no wrong. But me, I arrest him. Or I'm saying him as a general term, and I'm the bad guy. It's always until it happens close to home, until it's your family.
And where's
then
police?
It's like, where's the police?
Yeah.
Or, hey, can you help me do that? Hey, can you help me find out who did this? For me, as far as the negative comments, I don't care for them. I think I was a senior class president, and my demeanor has always been the same as it is now. For me, I'll tell you real bluntly, I don't care.
So I would say in our career, I say I get offended. For him. It bothers me more than it bothers him. And I've confronted several people like that and tell them, man, you said, what have you done? Especially when a black person is trying to call him Uncle Tom or a house N-word, they don't use that word, but they say that, and I'm like, I'll stop. I'm like, hey, man, what have you done for your community? What have you done to help the community that you're saying that it's your people? And he's born and raised here, and he's actually giving back, contributing to the people and taking care of individuals in this side. And you know what they do? They're like, oh, well, whatever, right?
Yeah, that's a canned response.
Yeah.
Social media in general is just it gives fools and cowards a microphone and a platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that's almost frustrating as a police officer. Now, I'm a little bit older, so I didn't really grow up with social media, but people who actually interact with it, you're censored. Like, you can't say what you really want to say to some of these people, and they can. And that part is frustrating, but
I'm talking about confront people on the street. That's what I confront people. Yeah, but you're right, It's
an hour and 45 minutes now that I know this guy, and I'm just blown away by his professionalism. And now you see that that's just who he is.
Well, I have a bit. I try to stay behind my. I've been saying this line forever: is consider the source, right?
Oh, yeah. And I've heard you say that on this podcast. That's a very good point.
Well, because I worked in South Dallas in that area and in South Oak Cliff, and I grew up over there in South Oak Cliff area and Southwest side. I've been called racist, and you know what? I work in an area that's predominantly minority community, and the people that I go after because I chose to go do proactive policing in that area, there's a lot of bad men and women that are Hispanic or they're African American. I'm there because I'm following the crime. I'm following the activity. Yeah. And then when I hear people say things like, man, whatever, shit. Yeah. What have you done? I know that I've helped more minority people in these areas than they have because of some stupid ass post they may do or a video that they may have taken of me wrestling somebody.
Yeah. And I'll say the majority of people in these communities want the police. Oh yeah. Every time we do an interaction, or every time we do an operation, we get somebody thanking us. Thank you for finally taking down that dope house. Thank you for my thing is these guys who hang out in front of stores. Maybe that's the only store somebody can walk to. Yeah, some person don't want to be accosted or fearful of going inside this store. So, my job as a police officer is to eliminate that. I mean, some people don't have cars, or this store is the only thing they have to get the necessities they need. Or
they're older, and that's their, because they're not putting, no one's putting a Walmart in there, so they got to go so they got to walk to that store, and they're fearful because there's fearful that there's going to be two rival gang members or drug dealers that are getting a shootout. Yep. And so,
or these guys are shooting dice directly in front of the door, and they can't get inside, and it's like, well, I guess I want to get milk today, so I'm gonna just go home.
It deters them from living their own life,
right? Yeah. So there's a reason for it. The proactivity is because it makes it better. It makes the people say, hey, there's been places in South Oak Cliff that we've helped clean up, and it feels good. It's not fun anymore because it's like all our activity is gone. Yeah, but
it's like we felt like we did something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rewarding to help people, and I think I've also mentioned before when you hit like a dope house, you arrest somebody like a known dealer out there, that you see the people from across the street giving you a very discreet thumbs up. Right. It happens all the time, and it is very rewarding. It makes you feel like what you're doing and your mission matters.
I will say this as well. When there's a difference between when I get out the car in Oak Cliff and when I get out the car in South Dallas. Yes. In Oak Cliff, I'm the sellout on Uncle Tom. But when I get out the car in Southeast Dallas, it's like, oh, that's one of the Johnson sisters' son. Good job. Come over here and give me a hug. And,
good. Absolutely. Yeah. And 100%. I can attest to that. And because it's more, there's pride. All right, there's pride that he's from this area, he's born and raised, he worked his tail off, and they, I say it all the time, is that's gonna be the chief someday, and that's his goal, and I say that's gonna be a chief someday, and they take pride in that, which is very interesting for me to watch as an older white male, seeing how in South Oak Cliff, just right across a bridge, that people will say, "Oh no, he's a black officer and he's selling out." And that's where I get hot. I'm like, dude. Yeah. I'm like, no,
that pisses me off. Thinking about hearing
that. I was like, dude, no, this dude has committed his life, and so and it's very interesting that society, doesn't know that's the way that really things happen in law enforcement, because the news and media will not actually see the truth on that.
So you were your senior class president.
Yes.
Did you do anything before that in leadership roles like that?
With the Explorers.
So even in the Explorers, right? You were the Rookie Explorer of the Year. Is that what you won? And then you also won the Explorer of the State?
Yes. TALIA, Texas Law Enforcement Advisors Association, it's like the Super Bowl for Explorer competitions. So it's the state of Texas hosted. Like Chris Grawl and Joe Hawkins are legends in the Explorer program. And I believe both of them are still on the board for TALIA. So when I was an Explorer, when I first joined Explorers, I got Rookie Explorer of the Year. And then
And that was like as a 7-year-old, right?
Yeah, I was
He had the same
14.
voice. Same voice. He's like, I'm here for my Explorer meeting.
And then I won for the that was for the entire state. Then I won the actual Explorer of the Year. Holmes wrote down drum major.
That's the leaders. That's the leadership. That's the leadership thing, man.
My freshman and sophomore year, I was the drum major of the great James Madison Freshman Horns Marching
As
Band.
a freshman and a sophomore, you were a drum major. That's usually reserved for upperclassmen. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, again, your whole life has been service and leadership to this point, right?
Yes.
So, Jacob, you were involved with school and children, and you see all sorts of children, right? As a teacher, and especially as a coach, you see a lot of leadership coming up in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Explain what you see in Brandon. Just brag on him a little bit.
So one of the things that, like I said, being someone who was in that and meeting him, one of the things I'll say this, and is you got to give just a shout out to his mom. And I'll tell you that after 10 years in education and 8 years in law enforcement and being of all walks of life, right? Black, white, Hispanic, whatever the cultural background, whatever theological background, right? We have all kinds of different viewpoints, and whatever your political viewpoints. If you are going to be successful in life, it's all about how you're raised. And I say this, and people say, well, is there a possibility that you can, even if you're raised right, can you do well? Yes, you can, but it's going to be a whole lot harder. Right, so my background was really, really rough. My dad was abusive. Then when I was 12, he committed suicide. And then guess what? My mom got remarried to my stepdad, and I saw a man treat a woman the way that was supposed to happen, and that radically changed my life. And so these people that come in your life, and it takes a tribe, just like Dad was saying. But I'm telling you, his mom had put in the effort to make sure he was taken care of. Then you have the other people that come in and speak into his life, and that's the first point, right? You have to have these people around you, the parents or the grandparents. It can be a multitude of people, but people have to be speaking into these young people's life. That's one. And then the second thing is there's choice.
For sure.
That young person, and this is where the bragging about Di comes, is he's 19 years old, and I remember him, we're in academy, and we became friends real quick because we had the same similar backgrounds, rough upbringing, rough kind of thing, and we're talking, and I remember him telling me, he's like, I know everybody looks at me as a young person, man, and I said, dude, I'm not trying to preach to you, but I'm going to tell you there's a really good truth that, and it's from the Word of God. It says, never let anyone let down you on your youth, and you have something that is unique, right? You have a gift, and you have a gift of leadership. You have a gift of understanding, of goal-driven. You need to take that and go with it, And he said, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to be the chief. And everybody knows this. Everybody jokes, Di's going to be a chief and Holmes is going to be a driver someday. I'm like, that's fine with me, man. I'm going to be a civilian because I'm too old by the time he gets there, he knows I'm too old. I'll be retired, but I'll come back as a civilian driver. And so I say that because the way that his wanting to learn. When we first got out there, he knew the law. He knew how to put people in jail. And he would tell me things like, man, I just want to be able to talk to people like the way that you can. I was like, that will come, man. You're 20 years old.
Yeah.
Life experience is going to give you that. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen, and I've seen it. So it's been fun to watch someone from 19 to 20, almost 28, to watch someone grow up in this profession and basically as my little brother. And so I absolutely can't speak highly enough about him. And I think that for young officers, it's a model of how you want to, look at your career in the future.
Speaking of other accolades that you received, we're on the eve of Dallas Police Association Cops Cop,
which is
awards.
A great time.
It is a great time, and I will be there tomorrow night.
I will be there too.
So, can you talk about that experience? And you were the 2019 Dallas Police Association Cops Cop overall winner. Can you talk about that experience for you?
I would say it was very unexpected because the person who nominated me, I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. It's Detective Eric Lytle. He's in Capers now. At the time, he was one of the South Central property crimes detectives, and we had helped him out on a few. At the time, was it offer up and let it go, and
the theft of
persons was super high. People would be selling iPhones and stuff like that. We helped him a couple times on some things, identify some guys for him. But then he comes to me a couple months later and said, "Hey, I'm putting you in for basically Officer of the Month, DPA's Cops Cop." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I was completely unexpected. And then at the time, from March of 2019 and prior, I felt that this is my confident, cocky moment. I would put my numbers up against anybody. I would put my work ethic up against anybody. I would put it all out there and say, top that. Then fast forward to the yearly banquet. Initially, I didn't think I was going to win. I was up in a hotel room because they are very generous and gives us a whole free hotel room.
It's nice.
Oh yeah,
it's a good deal.
And I was like, you know what? If I do win, I want to have something to say. Even though I don't think I'm going back to my monthly win speech, and then I'm editing some stuff, putting in some stuff, and I was like, I'm going up against my first face trainer, Jake Morgan.
Yeah,
who was a great, phenomenal guy.
He's homicide now.
Shout out Tim Tebow.
Oh yeah,
I've always said he looks like Tebow.
Yeah, that dude, he was a great trainer, brilliant guy. Yeah.
Then they say I won. I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, oh, and. Yeah, it was a great experience, and I feel that it shows that hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I'm not in it for the accolades. I'm not in it for the awards. I'm in it for the satisfaction of knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But to be recognized is always a great thing.
Especially recognized by your peers.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It wasn't a supervisor who nominated me. It was a detective.
Well, and Lytle is, if you know him.
I know him very well.
Yeah. So, our sons played on the same baseball team for a while, and he's just matter of fact. So he's not like, I'm going to try to help this young guy out. No, he looked at it and said, this is a great officer, and so that's something other officers should look to do. More senior officers look to try to support. So that was really great of him to do that.
Yeah.
So
great. I'm very grateful and very humbled by it.
That's awesome. It's inspiring to go from growing up in the 415 to become a young explorer, become a very young recruit. Absolutely, with Dallas Police Department. Hell, you can't even buy a drink yet, and then winning the Cops Cop award a short time after graduating. Really, relatively, very young officer. But when you put in good work, people that you may not even know are paying attention. They're paying attention, like Lytle, right? I know Lytle. I worked with him quite a bit when he was in robbery. And now he's back at South Central, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's back at South Central.
Yeah.
And you caught his eye, right? Your body of work caught his eye, and in this department, in this profession, really, you don't get a lot of pats on the back, and a lot of time people are waiting in line to give you a slap across the face.
Yep.
But to get a pat on your back from your peers and to grow up in an area that there's a lot of people they don't make it out of that cycle in that area to become, especially law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you a final question. Okay. So, all the other young people out in crime-ridden areas and poverty-stricken areas that are trying to, have dreams of getting out and serving and making their community better, what would you tell them, as from experience and also being a leader? What would you tell them? How can they do that?
I would say to have a plan. For me, Billy Dade Middle School, they had a program called Team Success. I forget the CEO's name, but I remember taking from his speech, have a plan. As a freshman in high school, have a actionable plan that you want to do when you graduate. If not, life is going to pass you by. And that's what I did. My freshman year, I told myself I was going to apply to the Dallas Police Department in January of 2015, and that's what I did. In 2009, I told myself I was going to apply in January of 2015. So I would say have a plan, know what you want to do, talk to the right people to figure out how you're going to get there. Write it down. For me, on my wall, I had get driver's license, graduate high school, complete first semester of college. I had this on my wall, and it was years went by before some of those boxes were checked, but they were all eventually checked. And then the second thing was everything's a choice. Regardless of the hand that life has dealt you, regardless of how you've grown up, at some point, somebody has shown you the difference between right and wrong. Or even if they haven't, just as humans, we can feel if something is wrong.
Some moral code within us. Yeah.
We can feel like I'm doing something and I'm pretty sure it's going to hurt somebody else, or this isn't going to be right for me. Then it's probably a wrong choice, and more than likely it's probably illegal. So it's going to halt you from doing whatever it is you want to do. So everything else is a choice. You can choose to do what you want to do with this life. And I'm not talking about becoming a police officer. That's just in whatever goal you have for yourself. And for people specifically in the low socioeconomic areas, the crime-ridden areas, I always say it's more to life than South Dallas. You can always stay and give back, or you can leave and give back. But there's more to experience in life than just being surrounded by. It's a small amount of negativity, but because I didn't have a bad childhood, I had everything I wanted and everything I needed. My mom struggled a bit, but you can always grow, and regardless, like I said, of the cards you're dealt. So make the right choice and have a plan. That's what we always say. We make it a point to go back to Madison and speak, and other high schools and speak every year, and that's the same thing I always say. And if I can reach one person and make them see that, hey, I don't need to make this bad choice. Because I always give the scenario of, if when you got to school that morning, y'all all caught the school bus, and your friend skips class, then he shows up after school with a brand new Lexus, and you know he ain't got no money, no job. So why would you get in that car? Does it feel right? No, it doesn't feel right, because it's probably a stolo. A few minutes later, it's probably going to be some red and blues behind you. And now you have to deal with whatever charge. And you're probably going to run because that's the thing to do, right? Now you got another charge. So it all starts with making a decision. So make the right choice and have a plan.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. But before we go, I want you to say your incredible mother's name.
My mom is Carolyn Johnson.
Miss Johnson, I look forward to meeting you one day, because you produce a incredible young man.
Yeah, she needs to write a book.
Yes.
Hey, Mama, it's Holmes.
ATO listeners, till next time, take care of yourself and keep listening. God bless.
Hey, brother, hey, sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey, Mrs., hey, mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder, together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far, for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up on you.